Hello and welcome. I'm Anna, and this is a new episode of Proyecto Co, a channel that explores ideas, methods, and mental models that will help you expand your knowledge around social innovation, develop your potential, and master the best of what experts and entrepreneurs have already learned. It is my great pleasure to welcome Ilka Hennet, network organizer of the German-speaking countries for the community of responsible leaders coined by the BMW Foundation. What is responsible leadership? Why is it important? Who is a responsible leader? In this episode, we tackle these questions and much more.
Ilka, it's a pleasure to have you on this interview and sharing your knowledge with Proyecto Co. I was wondering, what does responsible leadership mean to you?
Might want to start with a quote. I just heard someone else saying when it comes to responsible leadership that it is about serving more than about ruling. And that made a lot of sense to me because I think responsible leadership means to enable others to live up to their full potential and to have a positive, help them and enable them to have a positive impact on society.
Wow, that's huge, no? Because how do you do that?
I think it needs different skills than people in former years and centuries thought about leadership needs. And I think it, first of all, needs a lot of listening skills and of understanding the needs of the people around you, but also of the society you're in, or societies in general, or even you might want to extend it to the world and environment and everything that's in it, to really understand what is needed and then enable your team and the people you're working with to work towards what is needed.
That reminds me directly of empathy, no? Somehow. Which would be the characteristics that you see in responsible leaders?
Empathy is definitely one. And of course, from our leadership, we always have very great expectations towards our leadership. And I think that sometimes might also be too much expectation and a burden, because empathy goes both ways. It goes towards our leadership and the way back. So I think empathy is the basis of human interaction, of positive human interaction. So that is most certainly needed. Humbleness also comes to my mind. As a leader, you need to be aware of not being the expert in every field, but rather identifying the experts and then listening to them and being open for advice. Leadership certainly also means to take decisions. That's also a very hard part, I guess. Leadership is created once you have followers. You cannot be a leader if no one follows you. That is also connected to empathy, but also there's a line towards populism, of course. So bad leadership also requires followers. So you have it both. But then also to think on a meta level. So seeing really the greater good for societies and humankind and the earth. And at the same time, also to be able to see what is right in front of you on a very small scale level, very directly see the person in front of you and be aware of that and listen to that. And that's a hard combination. If I look at myself, what kind of leaders do I want to follow? It's certainly someone with a great vision. But at the same time, I need to be sure we share values and those values, and we stick to those values. Mm-hmm. So that is also something. So it's vision, shared values, and respect.
What would you say the leaders of the BMW Foundation's network have in common?
It is a value base, and I think if you want to make it free of religion, you end up with human rights, and of course it's a Western approach in the end. And I would still say it's something we can agree upon, and they are a good basis for a really peaceful world and a just world and a sustainable world. So although there might be other and better concepts, I would say that human rights are a good basis to agree upon. And that is something I feel should and is in our Responsible Leaders Network a basis and something we can all agree upon.
Who are the members of the BMW Responsible Leadership Network?
They're people in leadership position, which means as we understand leadership more as a mindset than a position. It's not that you only find CEOs from huge multinational companies in there, but leadership can be in any area of society and from any sector and any background. So you can, for us, be a responsible leader if you're a journalist, and you will definitely never have a budget and a bunch of team members to decide upon. And at the same time, you can take your responsibility towards society because you are bringing the truth to the world, or you are really shaping opinion, and you can be a thought leader. So you can be an artist and a responsible leader for us. It's a wide range of people. We want to see that they take leadership in their field and that they have an influence, a positive, of course, influence to the world.
I like this approach. I like it very much. I think it's very innovative in the sense that I've seen different networks and most of them are focused on one common mission, And seeing this diversity, I suppose it brings a lot of innovation and beautiful exchange into the community.
I think that's one of our core experiences, that when we bring people from all sectors of society and all backgrounds and different cultural backgrounds also together, and then also we are able to help them to communicate or to have really meaningful conversations and open conversations on a basis of their human kindness and not on their business cards and business interests, then I think that this diversity we can bring together is always an asset, an incredible source for innovation also, because you start seeing other perspectives, you get the chance to really put yourself in other people's shoes, and you start to understand the logic behind their thoughts and their actions. And so that is really the basis for everything. That's also the feedback we get from participants or from members of our network a lot, is that it is really intriguing for them because they find a group of people they're not exposed to in their daily life. And that goes for all sectors, I guess, because everyone lives in some kind of a bubble. Although I must say that when it comes to diversity, we still have a way to go. So we think we are quite diverse, but we have lots of blind spots still.
The mindset dimension, I think it's very interesting, no? Knowing so many stories about responsible leaders from such diverse backgrounds, do you see commonalities in their trajectories towards becoming a responsible leader? Is it something that you're born with, or is it something that you develop over time?
I think it develops over time, because being born with would mean that some people can never be responsible leaders, and that doesn't make any sense to me. It's probably easier if you have good role models around you and an easy start to really be able to pursue a value-based life. And if I look at my own biography, I grew up in the Western European world after the Second World War in prosperity and peace. So I never had to face any dilemma like people had who lived in non-democratic states, for example. I was not confronted with big crisis. So COVID is the first time I am part of or experiencing some kind of a global crisis. So I think that makes things very easy. And at the same time, even more important for people like me to understand the dilemmas others are facing, or the values they have to weigh against each other and then decide. So I think there are circumstances which makes it easier, and others who makes it harder and even more admirable if you have a really hard and harsh environment and you're still living up to your responsibilities.
Could you give some examples of how responsible leaders are creating positive impact?
So 2 examples come to my mind. One is Diplomat, who was posted in India and got in touch with Kailash Satyarthi, the Nobel Prize laureate. And in the end, she decided to step out of her diplomatic career, which was a very big step, because coming from a country where being in the Foreign Office means you have beaten all competition around you, have very high esteem in your professional work. And still she decided to leave that and help Kailash Satyarthi to run his campaigns against child slavery and work in this field, and also found their own NGO working against sexual child abuse. So that would be one person that impressed me personally also very much.
What impressed you about her?
The freedom to leave what seems to be also impactful career in diplomacy and an interest and a real passion, because she found another purpose she felt was more important, and to dedicate all her time and energy. I think because she felt this would have the impact she wanted to have in the world, and I think that was a very bold step to take. The other example would be a banker who, although traveling all the time and working crazy hours, took so much interest in a youth engagement project that she decided to dedicate her vacation time and basically all her free time to mentor the founders of this youth organization, helping them really to create a solid business plan, connecting them to people who also then could open doors for them wherever she could, and really almost dedicating a whole year to this organization and helping them grow onto the next level. For me, a very inspiring story of someone who has already a lot of responsibility in her own field and also being in her own business environment, someone who's really, really driving change toward more sustainability, but also looking beyond that. Mm-hmm. And then being totally passionate about young people, trying to build something and dedicating all her time there.
So it's passion, it's going out of your way and helping to create a better world.
In both examples, I guess, I saw them really having a direct impact in the field they're having, but also on the way bringing other people and enabling other people to grow their potential and work towards a better world. So I think that's the best you can do.
Are you seeing like an awakening towards being more empathic and creating a more sustainable reality?
I think it's not connected to the years I'm working with the foundation, but more a general movement I see in society, that our idea of leadership is changing. And everything you find now when it comes to new leadership, collaborative leadership, female leadership, and also connected very much to what we think of responsible leadership, you can see this change. And of course, people don't become responsible leaders because we invite them into our network, but there is a huge amount of responsible leaders in the world, and we are able to identify and get to know some of them and then bring them into this network. But of course, and we don't make them, but they are responsible leaders, and we bring them together. An acceleration I can see is very much due to the fact that we have the SDGs now, because we have a framework people can relate to, and maybe it's also helpful to make your work more focused and see who else is in the field. So I think that was very, very helpful. And of course, I see an acceleration of impact within our network, because people within the network finding so much possibilities and so much openness to collaborate and to add their impact on and bring them, join forces with others. So that's one of the beautiful effects a good community can have.
What would you recommend to people who are starting their projects or are now in leadership positions to lead responsibly?
Maybe I can bring it down to when I find partnerships successful and enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And maybe that goes in that direction you're asking. Mm-hmm. And that is finding openness and trust as a basis to collaborate and never think you are here to do things on your own.
That requires a lot of personal development somehow, no?
Yes, I think it can. This is where I think we can make a difference as a foundation, to create those spaces where you can open up and remind and be reconnected with your human needs and basis, and then see that you share that with the other people in the room. And to make this openness possible, it needs to be a safe space, and you need to be able to trust. And then you start from the common ground. That's our privilege, that we are allowed to create those spaces, and we have the freedom to do that. So I think that's why working there is fun.
And people open up.
It depends on our design. People can open up if we create the space where you are invited to open up. And I think if we're successful and our formats are well designed and the way we intend them to be, people will not exchange business cards. We see that. They don't do that because it's not relevant. I'm not meeting you because I hope that we do business together, or I'm impressed with your high position or anything, or your status, but really start on the human, on the common ground of being human and of really facing the same basic needs. And then we go from there, and then a lot of collaboration happens where the business card in the end might be important, but that is the last step, basically. Yeah.
Okay, starting with the person, then the connection, the potential collaboration.
That's really interesting. It's actually the basis of our design when we design encounters is really to start, who am I? And then who are we? And then who are we in this world? So that's exactly what the steps we try to take, yeah.
I was once asked that question, who are you? Who is Anna? No? And it took me, I really had to reflect upon the answer, no? Because it's a very difficult question.
It is.
And what kind of answers do you get there?
It is interesting. It depends a little bit on how you pose the question. Who are you is a very difficult question to ask. We often would frame it differently and say, what would you like to share with everyone here about yourself? And then people come up with the stories that characterize them and show who they are. And that might be easier. And it's always obvious that every one of us has so many different roles that are sometimes in conflict with each other when it comes to our resources, especially our time, our energy, and how we balance all this out. And so it's clear that everyone has this complex setting of having so many hats and roles in life. And yeah, I mean, being a professional, being part of a certain society, maybe being part of a certain group in a society, being a daughter, being a sister, being a mother, maybe. So, and those are all sides of you. But then there's a core, what drives you, what makes you passionate, what gives you energy. And if you're able to speak about that, I think you're really close to the question, who are you? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ilka.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. You can find all the references of the episode on our website, www.efectocolibri.com/Proyecto Co. If you liked it, rate us with 5 stars, leave us a comment, and share it with your network. This will help us reach more people and make social innovation become the norm. So in advance, a big thank you. If you have questions, feedback, or want to introduce us to a guest for the podcast, you can write us directly at ana@efectocolibri.com. See you next time!